Hey everybody, I'm Peyton Garland.
And I'm Rand Tomlinson.
And today we're talking to a really special guest. This is actually our second interview with a cast member from The Chosen. We talked with Jonathan Rumi, who plays Jesus, about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So we're super excited today to have Shaan Sharma, who plays Shmuel. And so Shaan, I'm going to let you take the floor. But first, just for everybody to know, we would like to know a little bit about how you came to find The Chosen, what connected you to the team, and then if you could also tell us actually what a Pharisee is, because there's lots of misconceptions.
Thank you for having me. The way that I connected with The Chosen was very simple. I'm just a working actor in Los Angeles, and my agent sent me the audition. And initially, my audition was for Simon. And so my initial audition tape was his character's material. And that was a lot of fun to send in. And then I got the call back a couple of weeks later for this different part, Shmuel. And so that one I actually got to go in and do for the first time for Dallas in person. The first audition tape was just a self-tape where I sent that in, but then I actually got to go into Beverly Holloway's office, who's the casting director, and Dallas was there, and I did my material, and we had a lot of fun in the room, and it seemed like he was enjoying my performance, and then got the news that I had been selected to join the team.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and as far as like what a Pharisee is, I'm sure there are biblical scholars that can give you more of a in-depth, description of them. But so far as my character is concerned, just one of the adherents, one of the groups that really adhered to the Old Testament in the way that Jesus was supposed to, or the Messiah was supposed to return, was very different than the way Jesus actually came. And it really threw the Pharisees for a loop, because they were such strict adherents to the way things had been prophesied and what they thought the Word of God was, that they ultimately resisted, Jesus to such an extent that it resulted in his crucifixion, his arrest and crucifixion. So Pharisees are really seen as antagonists towards, Jesus when he came back. And certainly my character is very antagonistic towards this new guy on the scene who's causing all kinds of trouble. And the way that I've tried to play Shmuel, and the way that I hope I can continue to play the character so long as it's part of the series, is just to show that, it can be hard to change, and when you really believe something, it can be very hard to let go of that, especially if you've been raised your entire life to believe that this is the way things are. And you constantly have false prophets and people coming and claiming to be this and that. It can be hard to tell what's real and what's not. And I think that's what really, I think that's what really threw Nicodemus even for a loop, because he was trying to figure out, like, not being stuck in the old ways, but he actually got to witness some real miraculous things that opened his eyes, although I don't believe he ever completely became a follower of Christ. But my character, I don't know where the Dallas and the team plan to take Shmuel, but I have a feeling that Shmuel is not going to come around and be a big fan of of Jesus through the show.
We're gathering that just from how it's all playing out. I think that's such a good point, though. I mean, and I think you were going to talk about this too, but just like the humanity behind that. And I think oftentimes it's hard to identify with the people who are, especially if you are someone who has come to know and love Jesus. It's kind of hard to identify as like that person who is not in alignment with that, or is like kind of, has a rub against that. And I think that's so important just in the story of the show to help us to understand, like, that I think is anybody that's, having something new introduced into your life.
Right. I think, for a 2020 Christian, you've known Jesus as Jesus was when he came to earth, but for your character, this is a completely different thing. And it makes, when I was watching the show, it made me question myself as a Christian. If I were in the Pharisees' shoes and Jesus came on the scene, who's to really say? My first reaction wouldn't be, whoa, this isn't I'm a rule girl. I like my rules. I like to follow rules. They create a rhythm. They create a system and almost a sense of peace for a lot of people. There's a security in rules. So I don't know that I would not step back for a second and say, wait a second, this is not how you were supposed to come. I would have questions as well. So I think there's a little bit of grace there, and even I think Jesus extended. I think there's a system of grace. It's just you don't always have the answers, and we do get thrown for a big loop when things aren't the way we first thought they were.
Yeah. I mean, the whole concept of faith, right, is that it can be so hard to take that leap of faith to just believe. If it was so obvious, then everybody would have obviously, accepted immediately. But the fact that not everybody was there when miracles occurred. They're hearing things secondhand. You worry about, is there some kind of manipulation going on that I can't see? Because there was another video that The Chosen put out that had a kind of a round table of biblical scholars and rabbis and and pastors, etc. And they were talking about how the Pharisees were kind of like the stand-up kind of religious followers of the day, and people really looked to the Pharisees as like the real strict adherents to the old ways. So when Jesus and the Pharisees started having conflict, it must have been really a tough thing for the people of the time to know what to believe, because it's like the Pharisees were educated and knowledgeable and disciplined, and so I mean, I don't. I think that the challenge is to portray that whole thing in a way that shows that it's reasonable for people to have been confused and to have doubts and to feel challenged on what they had been raised to believe to be good members of the society, but also, as Nicodemus says, to be willing to be flexible in the way the Messiah came, because, it isn't up to any mortal how God chooses to, to come and impact our lives. And so we have to somehow have eyes to see what isn't the way it was prophesied in the written word.
I think that's so good. One of the things that I wanted to talk to you about, just based on the character that you're kind of playing, we're in an interesting place in the church in America right now. I mean, it's just a very fascinating place that we're in. And one of the things that I have found over just my journey in the last year has been, I have found much more hope in the midst of my questions than I did ever in any sort of certainty or thing that I thought that I knew about God. He just continues to show me more and more how good he is. Playing that character, there was a lot of rigidity around, like wanting to make sure that you're keeping the rules. And I see that in myself too. Do you feel like the rub between the character and between the person who is playing Jesus was that he just didn't look the part? Or what do you think that was? Do you think that it was just radical, or that he wasn't like hanging out with the right people? What do you think that was about?
Well, I mean, the question that comes to my mind is, how hard would each of us today fight to defend something that we had been raised to believe as true?
Yeah.
And the answer to that is, many of us would fight to the death to preserve what we believe to be true, especially when it comes to our relationship with God. So you can imagine the conflict we see today between people of different faiths entirely, not just different, sects of Christianity or denominations of Christianity, but just like how are Muslims and Hindus supposed to reconcile their differences? I mean, my family's from India, and that goes back, hundreds and hundreds of years. And so the answer is it's no matter how Jesus would appear, if it was diverging from what I had been raised as my character, right? As my character had been raised and devoted his life to, it's so hard to say, okay, I'm willing to put that aside for something that is radical, somebody who arrives in Jerusalem right on a donkey, somebody who's, it's not happening the way it should. So it can't be right, because God wouldn't lie to us, or God's word couldn't be wrong. So, I think the important lesson of the Pharisees, or at least my character, is to have, like you guys said earlier, some compassion for those that find it difficult to adjust when they've been raised to believe something so strictly. And we have so many other things in our lives today. They didn't have that 2,000 years ago. You know, they didn't have all these other entertainments. It was like faith was a central pillar of your life, and you didn't have, like, I don't know, you get what I'm saying? Like all the other distractions we have today, it's like work and faith and family, and that's it. And today there's so many other things that consume our attention. You know, so anyway, that's my view. I don't think, at least for my character and the work that I did and the research that I did, it had nothing to do with how Jesus looked. It had everything to do with if this doesn't conform to the rules, then it's wrong.
That's such a great approach, I think, to the character. Yeah, I mean, I there's so many different ways you could have gone about that, and I think the way you went about it was really wise, and you educated yourself not just on, you know, what was given you, but also, you know, what life would have really been like in that time. And I think also there's a conversation that Shmuel. I'm so bad at this.
Shmuel.
We got it. Thank you. So, but there's a conversation between your character and Nicodemus.
Well, my eyes are tired. Would you mind reading to me from the scroll of the prophet Isaiah?
Comfort my people, says
A
our...
little further down, a few lines.
A voice cries, in the wilderness, prepare the way of Adonai. Make straight in the desert a highway for our God.
And who does that sound like?
The heretic John.
And what heresy do you find in those words, being that Isaiah said
The
them?
heresy is that John has appropriated Isaiah's words by taking a spiritual description of God in heaven and applying it to John's physical successor on earth.
Successor.
John said, after me comes he who is mightier than I, the strap of whose sandals I am not worthy to stoop down and untie.
And?
God has no body, he cannot wear sandals. God cannot take human form. To say so is blasphemy.
And where does it say that God cannot take human form?
In the scroll of Deuteronomy. You saw no face the day Adonai spoke to you at Horeb.
Just because they saw no form doesn't mean God cannot take one.
In Exodus, you cannot see my face, for no man shall see me and live. This person would have to walk around with his face covered.
Ooh. So you would place limits on the Almighty?
None that are not written in law.
And if God did something that you felt contradicted the Torah, would you tell him to get back in that box that you have carved for him? Or would you question your interpretation of the Torah?
When I was a student, I knew all your sayings. I read every word you wrote. Your teachings were so sturdy, so reasoned and pure.
We are still students, Shmuel. All of us. Our understanding will never be complete.
It frightens me that I can no longer predict your rulings.
And fear alone ensures we remain ignorant, asleep in the safety of rigid tradition. Take the Sadducees. They take the first 5 books, the law of Moses, as inspired scripture. The rest, they disregard. To them, God stopped speaking when Moses died. Think of all they have missed. The Psalms of David, the stories of Ruth and Boaz, Esther and Mordecai. I don't want to live in some bleak past where God cannot do anything new. Do you?
Why is that your concern? God gave us his law. We must uphold it.
We can do both. Let's look to the ancient roads where the good way is and walk in it, as Jeremiah said, and still keep our eyes open to the startling and the unexpected. Can we agree on that?
Yes.
You and I, we can lead the others in this.
I beg your pardon, teacher of teachers.
What's happened?
A crowd has gathered in the east side to see a man preaching.
A Pharisee?
No, a common person. It's not John. Someone normal. He has commanded the attention of the entire area.
We will investigate.
I remember seeing that dialogue go back and forth, and I was like, I wonder what it's like, or what it would have been like to see, for a student to see his teacher in this position and to go like, everything is falling apart. You know, like I think I would have been so fearful of that. I don't know. Yeah, that whole conversation kind of rocked me.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite experiences in the show so far, because it was just me and Eric Avari, who plays Nicodemus. And when I watched that scene, I really love our challenge to each other. You know, like he receives my confusion and my fear so lovingly and so passionately. You know, he doesn't admonish me with anger. He basically understands where I'm coming from, because I even tell him, I say, you know, when I was growing up or when I was coming up, I read everything you wrote, you know, like everything you wrote was so clear, it was easy to follow. And now you're like changing what you've always believed. And it's like scary because I don't know what you're going to do next. And the very next thing he does is like not even say anything when Jesus says he's the Son of Man, when he's healing the paralytic. And like, I'm standing around like challenging this, who I think is a false prophet. And where's Nicodemus? He's back there just sitting and on the sidelines. And so that's when my character finally decides, if he's not going to step up and try to defend, you know, our beliefs, then I'm going to have to do that. And that leads to my confrontation at the end, where I feel like there's been a loss of respect that I have for Nicodemus and his purity, because he didn't step up when the time demanded it. So that's kind of like a heartbreaking turn of events in that one episode, is me looking to my teacher. Because you know, from the very beginning of the show, we see how exciting it is for me to have Nicodemus in our town and to fawning all over him and everything I can do to serve him. And then over the course of the season, we see that in perhaps, you know, an unfortunate way, Shmuel is a more strict adherent to the rules than Nicodemus is, and it affects our relationship in that way.
I think that really leads to a question I wanted to ask you, is from an emotional standpoint, were you driven, you think your character, by fear? Was it more from anger? I guess, where was the seed of your emotion coming from?
Well, I mean, imagine someone you love going off the path.
Yeah.
It's all kinds of things, because you're fearful that, you know, that they're losing their way at the cost of their own kind of, you know, faith, and their relationship with God will suffer because they're making a mistake. There's the fear that maybe you're missing something, you know, so like, you know, like, okay, if he's feeling this way, am I wrong for my beliefs? But like, you know, frame of reference is so important, you know, because if you don't have a frame of reference, you can't see how things could be, because you only know how things are. So when your entire frame of reference is just reinforcing one way of thinking, how are you supposed to break out of that box and see the world differently? Especially since Shmuel didn't have the same interactions with like Mary and Shmuel. One of Shmuel's first interactions in the story was John the Baptist insulting us and saying we're a brood of vipers and we're all corrupt and this and that. It's like, whoa, man, like, you know, geez, like, so it wasn't like a frictionless introduction into our community, you know, like we have this guy in camel skin, you know, having people go into the river and like, so it's just, I feel like there were all kinds of emotions that would come with not being able to understand, being stuck in one particular mindset without a frame of reference, seeing somebody you look up to seem to stray off the path, questioning yourself, but not having anything else to latch onto. I mean, you know, like even in the scene with the paralytic, you know, Jesus is very confrontational to me, you know, and so it was like, you know, the whole thing I feel like is just a sad turn of events, you know, just an unfortunate sequence of events.
You know what I love? I the thing that both of us, and I think pretty much anybody that watches The Chosen, that we have absolutely loved has been the humanity that is so well portrayed. And I feel like almost every other film outside of The Passion of the Christ, almost every other film that has ever been made about Jesus or about the time is like Jesus, and he's like walking through fields, and he's like beautiful. I mean, but it just, none of it was very human, you know? I mean, one of the things we talked to Jonathan about was that, you know, he goes to the what was it, Seder? No, it was something. Anyway, it was like what was it? Sabbath, Shabbat. Mm-hmm. And he goes in and he sits down and like turns to somebody and he winks at him. And I was like, of course. You know what I mean? Like, there's just so much humanity in the show. And I think that just something that I've learned over the last year as I've been asking a lot of questions and I've been learning a lot about just history and all of that. I have a friend that has been the friction for me. And at first I was like, I'm so frustrated with you. But as I've gone through time, it just seems like if there is no friction there, I mean, it's almost like it's like there to hold us to, I don't know. I feel like that the conflict is almost good for us. And I feel like this show does a really good job of showing that.
I think it's the catalyst. I think if you want change, there's got to be some sort of friction.
Well, you don't want anybody to fall out of the grace of God, right? You don't want anybody to lose their relationship with God. And so there's, of course, we're all driven by a passion to want to help people. And when they resist what we're trying to share with them, it can be frustrating because it's coming from a place of love and service when we're trying to reach out to somebody. But that being said, if it was so obvious that everybody would immediately, believe, then it's like, well, then there was really no work or faith required. It was just obvious. And so, what I love about the humanity in the show is I think it really resonates with our experience in daily life today. It's so easy to look at other projects and be like, it was so clear. It was so obvious. What's wrong with you people? But then like, but to actually put ourselves in those shoes and ask those tough questions and realize, like, I went to a very, all of my friends were born again Christians coming up in Minnesota. A lot of my best friends went to like Northwestern Bible College or, Bethel, in Minnesota. And so, but they were all struggling with all kinds of issues. And I remember in the Bible studies that we were a part of, like a lot of tough questions came up, and it's like, that's life. That's life is looking at people you love and saying, how come you can't understand this? It's people you love saying to you, what's wrong with you? It's like, people that don't like you using it as a cudgel against you. It's like, so when we see that reflected in the show, it reminds us that it's not easy now, and it wasn't easy then. And I think that's really important, so people have more compassion and tolerance for the process of trying to help others with this.
You just have no idea how much I needed to hear that today. Yeah. I needed to hear that today so much. There's a line from The Shack. Have you heard of The Shack? It was a book and then it became a movie. There's a line from The Shack. I think it's in the book, but it says, the only time you're ever going to find God in a box is because he wants to be where you are. And that, to me, I was just like, listen, that, like, I just shut the book. I'm done. That's all I need to know. Like, he's just, I don't know. He's just so good at it. I mean, we can like intellectualize this thing all day long, but until we learn how to get you know what I mean? Like, this doesn't matter unless this matters. I think interpersonal relationships is what's really beautifully shown in The Chosen. And you guys did such a good job of that. And again, going back to that one conversation that you guys had, I was so impacted by that because I was like, I love that they care enough about each other, but also about what they know or what they believe, that they engage in this. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you know anything about the Enneagram, but I'm a 9. Are you familiar?
I'm a 2, I think.
Oh, nice.
I'm a 1 wing too, so we're buddies.
So when I look at all this conflict, I think several years ago, before I had sort of learned more about how to integrate, I think several years ago I'd have been like, whoa, this is a lot. But now I think I see the importance of it so much. So I love that you guys have decided to go there.
Well, it's a real credit to Dallas, because Dallas gave us so much freedom to just do what we wanted to do. It wasn't like it was a command from him. I think Dallas hired great performers to do our jobs, and there was collaboration on set, and there was discussion, and we, Dallas and I would get together before the day in the trailer and just make sure we're on the same page about certain things, and I'd share with him my vision. He's like, yeah, that's great. And we played around with a couple of things on set when he had ideas, so he had some flexibility in the edit. But he just, the casting is incredible. I'm so honored to be around such gifted and hardworking performers who all have a passion for this story, not just as a job, but as a service and as a story. And then Jonathan is just a remarkable guy. He's lovely. We couldn't have found a better person to play the title character.
I love that. That's amazing. I have one last question.
Sure.
For you. What do you think? I mean, I think we've talked a lot about this, but you may have a different answer to this, and if not, that's okay. But what do you think they knew then that we don't necessarily know now? How is giving, like playing a character that was alive in like the turn of the century, well, the turn of the AD, whatever it is, the hinge of time. What do you think that they knew then that we maybe don't know necessarily now because we have all the distractions that you were talking about earlier?
That's a fun question. The first things that come to my mind is kind of what I said earlier, which is that nothing is more important than our relationship with God. And it's so easy to lose sight of that with all of the distractions and all of the temptations and everything, but at the end of the day, we're here to serve God, and nothing is more important than that mission. And we need to do it with the utmost humility and strength and courage to speak our truth. And it's okay to encounter controversy. I mean, one of the things that has really impacted me in these last couple of years is the idea that whenever you take a position, it doesn't matter what it is, there will be opposition. You could stand in the middle of a crowded, square and say, I believe people should be allowed to live. And there will be somebody who said, no, kill everybody. Like, it doesn't matter what you say, there will always be someone to take a opposing view to you. So you can't let that stop you from speaking your truth. And it doesn't, in some ways, we wouldn't be here having this conversation if it wasn't for the Pharisees resisting. If they had just laid down and not fought, I mean, we wouldn't have that example to show us the struggles we have, in our lives today of people who are missing the obvious. We think it's obvious, but it's not obvious. So I think that's part of it is nothing is more important than our relationship with God, and it's going to be met with controversy, and when you speak your truth, it's going to be hard, but you have to do it. I mean, it's a story of courage on both sides. It takes a lot of courage as a student to challenge your teacher, and I don't think we want to live in a world where students don't feel like they can challenge their teachers, because what if their teachers are wrong? And sometimes our teachers are wrong.
So true. That's so good.
It's kind of like when we were growing up and we think our parents know everything, and then we get to a certain age, we realize, wow, they really don't know everything. we might actually know more than them in some ways.
Oh my gosh, that's very true.
No, but Ren and I are so thankful for you to come on today and talk with us. We were really excited when we realized that we were going to get to talk to Shmuel. Just a pivotal character. There was lots of tension. I think every scene that your character was in, there was some serious emotion. Like there was just a heightened sense of something was going to happen. So we were excited to get the chance to talk with you and tap in a little bit to see what that was like behind the scenes for you. So again, thank you so much. But before we let you go, would you mind letting everyone know how they can watch The Chosen, where you can get access to the show?
Absolutely. I mean, the app is available on every app store. So just looking for The Chosen app, and that's one of the best ways to engage with it. And then also, VidAngel, which is the the production company that we're working with, and the platform. If you also just, go to, vidangel.com, it's also The Chosen, and you can watch it on that web platform as well, on that website. But just Googling The Chosen will bring you to that. And then there's lots of great clips and things on the YouTube channel for The Chosen as well.
That's
and
awesome.
yeah,
Now, is
so
there anything from season 2 that you can give away yet, or
honestly, I haven't seen the scripts for season 2 yet.
Okay.
I know that they did kind of a sneak peek where they had some of the cast members do like a reading of I think one of the scenes from season 2. But all I know is what we know from Dallas's announcement last week is that we are going to shoot season 2, or at least half of season 2 this year. But I haven't seen the script, so I do not know what they have in store for my character at this point.
It'll be a surprise for everybody.
It will.
Well, thank you so much,
Yeah.
Shaan. We really appreciate it.
Of course. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much.